I want to introduce myself and then we'll go over some reminders. My name is Michelle Landwehr and I'm a special education coordinator. I'm also a special education parent and a member of the special needs PTSA. I have a student who graduated from the transition program last year, and I have another student on an IEP who's a middle schooler. So I personally need help with advocacy, and I've had to do a lot of advocacy work myself on behalf of my kids. So I'm really grateful that we have all these presenters here, and thank you for being here. Let's see, just some reminders for folks who are online, and if you're here in person, there's a sign-in sheet over there to provide your email address if you want materials from the presentation. Because we have the PowerPoint, we can give the PowerPoint to you. We're also going to be recording this presentation, so you can go back and watch it. It'll be posted on the website. And then there's a place, it'll be posted in the chat for the people who are online, and the people in person, there are QR codes in the back where you can give your feedback about tonight, because we really want to hear your feedback. Any questions? Nope. Okay. All right, so we've got a few presenters tonight. You already heard from Trish from the special needs PTA. We also have our friends here from Open Doors for Multicultural Families who are going to speak to us in person. And then online, we have Matthew from Washington State Fathers Network. And then we're also going to have Ramona from the Arc of King County speak with us today. And we did the PTA. Okay, so Open Doors for Multicultural Families, you guys can have the floor. I think if you just stand here, the folks online will be able to see you. I'm going to squeeze over here so I can forward the slides. I'll try to do my best to forward them as needed, and give me a signal if I'm being too slow.
Right. So we'll see.
Actually, you can't see yourself, but if you guys are fine right there. It's a wide view. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can stand back.
Hello, everybody. First of all, in person, gracias for the invitation. Thank you for the invitation for our staff to be here. My name is Moses Perez, and I am the Advocacy and Civic Engagement Program Manager at Open Doors. Open Doors is based in Kent, but we have many families that we support, not only in South King County, but also even families here in Bellevue that we've been supporting for a few years now. I also have a couple team members with me, and I'll turn it over to you, Adita.
Thank you. Thank you to the Bellevue District for inviting us here. We're very happy to be here. I am Dara Mercado. I am the self-advocacy coordinator at Open Doors for Multicultural Families.
Yeah, and hi. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, my name is Min Nguyen. I am a family advocacy coordinator, and I've been with Open Door for almost 2 years now, and I'm looking forward for this meeting and maybe more to come. Thank you.
Yeah, I also just want to thank Gita as well. Gita reached out to our organization after learning about our self-advocacy leadership training program, which Gita is going to talk a little bit more about later on. But I also want to thank you, Michelle, as well, for being here, as well as all of the staff here at the Bellevue School District that helped to put this event on. I also want to thank Trish. Thank you for what you're doing with the Special Parent Teachers Association. We really appreciate groups like yours and what you do to advocate for your kiddos and young adults as well. Yeah, so a little bit about Open Doors. Open Doors' mission is to support and partner individuals with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities and their families, regardless of culture or linguistic background. Through a cultural brokerage model, which I'll go a little bit further into in the next slide, we connect them with services, provide specialized programming, and advocate for systems and policy change. Our focus is to serve a diverse range of communities, including immigrants, refugees, people of color, and other individuals who may face barriers in accessing support and resources. Next slide. So what is a cultural brokerage model? basically, our direct support staff serves as a bridge between families and agencies and helps families and also individuals with developmental disabilities to navigate these very complex services and systems. Our staff are bilingual and bicultural. Some of those would include Arabic, Amharic, Cantonese, Korean, Kurdish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Tigrinya, Somali, Spanish, and yes, of course, English. If any additional languages are needed, we also use the language line, even our organization. And I think you're going to see a little bit more about our staff on the next slide. Dita?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Moses. So just a little bit about our team at Open Doors. We're about 63 staff members, although I think recently we're almost topping that 70 staff members. We have 19 different languages that are spoken. Some of them were on the previous slide. 93% of our staff that we have on the team are people of color. 61% of our staff are immigrant or refugees. And 38% of our staff members that we have are parents or family members of a person with a developmental disability. And then just a little bit more about our organization.
Yeah, so at Open Doors, yes. That slide?
No, that.
Oh, Moses.
Oh,
I think you're going over. All right. Excuse me. So some of the services we offer at Open Doors, ranges from birth to all the way to elderly. But some of the main programs that we have at Open Doors, and start from birth to 6 years old is early learning. And a lot of these services that we do is, besides case management, the parents also get educational information and also how to collaboration to help early intervention for any kind of need from the family. And outside of that, there's also a department for family support, range from birth to 26 years old. It mainly support family on one-on-one system navigation. And some of the there's also some parent support group that offer in 12 different languages as well to help navigate the family in the proper direction. And then there's also a youth group, and the youth group is very very diverse with many different programs. Some of the program friendship circle, where the family, the children get together maybe after school or on the weekend. They get together and be able to express their feeling with the people that have the same disabilities or same mentality or same struggle within that community. And then there's a advocacy and civic engagement group, which is our team here. And we do a lot of self-advocacy, with Aaron Dura here leading the SALT training. And I'm going to be leading the family leadership training. And we also have the MIDS team. That one, we focus on a lot of community outreach and a lot of long-term disability planning for the families with different type of disabilities. And there's a lot of different resources for the family as well. And talk about a little bit of family leadership, because that's what I'll be specializing in. So we call FLT, and it was developed and organized by Open Door for multicultural families, ACE department. And it was funded by the Stark Family Foundation grant funds. And the curriculum itself is about 36 hours of culturally relevant family center that help train families, parents to advocate and be able to civic engaging with their needs. And most of the family that's participate in this program are from the family support group, where we would handpick out, who's qualified, or who's really had the need for this type of training, and we help them get to that next level in advocacy. And then the cohort three, we had two cohort already, and cohort three, we're thinking to schedule it for September to December to 2024. And a lot of these programs, we tend to help family, kids, with a lot of different kind of service. And I think it helped them develop a sense of belonging, feeling connected from both the school and the community, and as well as a lot of positive cultural identity that help bridging them with the community. Yeah, and I think that's all I have for the FLT. I'll turn it over to, oh, and sorry, the picture on my left, that's from the FLT, the Family Leadership Training, and that the picture, the person in the center is Governor Jay Inslee, and this was when we were successfully launch and be able to get our bill, the language access bill, to help the family with their language support in the system. And that bill was signed, and that was the picture with different families and different staffs from Open Doors. That was one of the milestones for the ACE team and the Open Doors organization. Now I turn it over to Ms. Andrea for SALT.
Thank you, Min. So before I get into talking a little bit about our self-advocacy leadership training, which is SALT for short, I did want to mention that the family leadership training was a blueprint for the SALT curriculum. So family leadership training was made first, and then from that training, from FLT, came the SALT program. So SALT stands for Self-Advocacy Leadership Training, and it is a leadership program designed by and for culturally and linguistically diverse individuals with intellectual and or developmental disabilities. So SALT is structured to teach people with intersectional identities fundamental skills to become self-advocates and pursue self-determined systems change. So on the next slide, it's our SALT program at a glance. So we recently graduated the second cohort. So we had one cohort last year, and then the second cohort graduated in August of this year. So our run dates for this year were June 22nd to August 17th. It is an 8-week-long session, although we do take a break after the fourth session. So it's technically 9 weeks, but we meet for 24 hours in total. So each of our sessions are 3 hours long. We focus on different things. So we have lessons on, sorry, there's a question in the room. Go ahead. Yeah, that's a great question. So the question that we had in person was at what age? So for this second cohort, we did 16 and up. So los 16 años y arriba. So that was the age group that we had. But we have lessons on leadership, community, independence, and advocacy. The reason why we chose the 16 age group was because we wanted individuals who could be there independently. Sometimes when you're in a room with your mom or your sibling, you're not as focused, or maybe you don't want to, you feel a little bit embarrassed. So that's why we chose that 16 and up age group. So 12 BIPOC self-advocate participants were selected for SALT. So we try to cut it at 12, where there is enough trainers in the room to have that one-on-one support if needed. And students were paid stipends for successful training completion. So if you were there for all 24 hours, you were paid the full stipend amount. And yeah, we can go back to the, yes. I just also wanted to mention, SALT is an opportunity for individuals to grow. They eventually turn into self-advocates. From cohort 1, we had a graduate that graduated from the cohort 1, and he came back for the second cohort as one of our SALT trainers. So we had him on staff. So he was with us for the 8 weeks long training after he graduated from the program. And then from this second cohort that we just graduated in August, Open Doors for Multicultural Families just hired a cohort 2 graduate. So he came on as our self-advocacy educator. So now we do have a self-advocate on staff, which is just easier, especially when we attend certain meetings and we need that self-advocate lens. So it's just a few things that we've been able to get out of SALT and family leadership training. And there is another question in the room. Go ahead.
So it's only your second cohort that we're saying. So it's always in summer, June to.
No, that's a great question. So the question in the room to summarize was, when would our third cohort be? So we just graduated this cohort in August, and we are looking at our cohort 3 starting February 24th. So this one will be about 10 weeks long. So it'll be a little bit longer. We're shortening from 3 hours. We're going from 3-hour sessions to 2-hour sessions. So we're slowly improving. Our first cohort was 36 hours long. So we cut that down to 24 hours and we kept it at 3 hours. But we noticed after a certain amount of time, you lose self-advocates. So we are deciding to go with 2 hours for our cohort 3, and we're extending it to 10 weeks instead of 8. So we can get the same curriculum in and be able to cover the same topics.
And it's always going to be that 16 and up age range.
I would say generally speaking, we found that our participants generally are between 16 and 22. And because we do have other adults in the room and things of that nature, we like to kind of keep it at 16. However, if we do find that we have a lot of participants that are applying more from the 14 and 15-year-old range, and not so many from the early 20s, then I think we would be open to customize it, to change that.
That relates to something I was wondering, which is what are the qualities or skills required to participate in the program?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say there is particular skills. We had a range when we were going through our interest forms that were received. There was a range. I wish I had the slide, or I would have put it on the slide. But we had a range of different disabilities that took part. The only thing we did ask was that the self-advocate would be able to be in the room alone, so they wouldn't need like a parent to be there. If it was a caregiver, that was okay. So we did have one of our self-advocates that did have their caregiver with them at all times when we were in person, because we did hybrid. So this was a hybrid. So 4 weeks was in person, 4 weeks was virtually. So that was the first 4 were in person, and then the last 4 were. No, sorry. The first 4 were virtually and the last 4 were in person. So that was, I think, the only thing we can ask, that we didn't want any parents in the room. So as long as you have if it can be a caregiver, we just asked for it not to be a parent. And we definitely saw that change when there was parents in the room. They were a little bit more quieter and weren't as engaging and participating in the activities. And when it was just them, they were very engageful and they participated in all activities.
Do you limit it to just 12 then, like only as of 12?
Yeah, currently that was our range. I think Inandita mentioned because we wanted to really ensure that they had that one-on-one support if they needed it. And this is one of the reasons why Inandita also contracted with 2 other self-advocates that helped with that type of coaching. So over 12, we did find that we didn't have enough staff to provide that support.
And is this on Saturday? What is it, on the weekend?
Yeah, thank you. So cohort 1 did meet on Saturdays. They met on Saturdays for 3 hours. So I think it was 12 to 3 p.m. And then this second cohort, because it was in the summer, we met on Thursdays. We met Thursdays from 2 to 5 p.m. We are currently thinking, it's still in the talks whether we'll stay on weekday or weekends. But most likely this third cohort will be on Saturdays since we're aiming at during school year this time.
And it's in your office, is that what it is?
So yeah, so once we got our interest forms, we tried to decide a local part. So we asked everyone for their addresses on the interest form, and we tried to see what was kind of in the middle, which was because transportation, if it's in person, you have to have your own transportation to get there. So we met for this second cohort. First cohort was virtually because it was during COVID. And then the second cohort hybrid, we met at the UW Othello Commons. So it wasn't in our office. We're located in Kent. So we tried to meet everyone in the middle, which was an okay point. I think the farthest drive for someone was maybe like 25 minutes away. So they were all King County residents.
Is this a great program for
Yeah.
participants?
Yeah, there's no cost to join. And I have, for those in person, I do have pamphlets with me that have contact information in case anyone has more questions.
And we can put that into
Oh, yeah, I can
put
give
that-
you
we
the
can
extra.
Follow up with email.
Yeah, and our emails are actually on the next slide as well. If there's any questions, there's Rose's, his email address, there's my email address and Min's, and there is also, in case you want just more information about Open Doors, there is an email where you can reach out. We do have a website as well. We have a new website, and then there is also an office phone number on that slide.
I have a question about the family.
Yes.
So let's say we have a family who needs some assistance advocating for their student.
Right.
Would the family program be a good fit for them, or do they call and then how can we help families access your services?
Right,
guess is my big question.
I think it is pretty much open for any family that's have the interest in advocating for themselves. So as of this moment, it's not like an age thing. It's more like whether you have the interest or not. Then same thing like SALT, FLT, family leadership training are free for parents as well. Yeah.
Okay. And then for the parents, do you have a slightly different focus than for the individual?
Yes, there's totally different curriculum, and the context of the curriculum is so right now we working on 3 different cultures because we want to focus on because each family that we've been working with they have different culture, so their view of the system, their view of things a little bit different. So we are working to tailor these programs to make it more focused on a culture, like on a specific culture. So right now, it really depends on, who's the family on. Right now, we do Hispanic, African American, and Somali culturally. We also have the English version as well for
Right.
English participants.
Yeah, I was going to say, the first 2 cohorts for family leadership training, part of the requirement was that the family members would be comfortable in receiving training in English. Because I actually did the first cohort, and we had 18 super moms, I call them, representing 8 different cultures. So if you can imagine, there's no way we could have done it in 8 different languages, right? So English had to be kind of the medium in the beginning for cohort 1 and cohort 2. And then now, before we go to cohort 3, we're also in the process of doing cultural reviews of our curriculum. So even though we're BIPOC, we felt it was really important to send this out to some professionals from those cultures. So we contracted with a professional from the Somali culture, Latino culture, and also the African American culture. And even though that particular culture, African American, they speak English, right? They're about 20% of our caseloads at Open Doors, which represents about 250 families or individuals. they also have a culture. So we just got those cultural reviews back. And now for the Spanish and for the Somali, now we're going to send it out for translation. So that way the curriculum can be in Spanish, the curriculum can be in Somali, and eventually Vietnamese and Hangul or Korean, and some of those other languages that you saw. But real quick, FLT curriculum, when Irendira mentioned, family leadership training was kind of like the foundation, and then SALT came out of that. That's really around programming and the delivery of the curriculum. But when we contracted actually with Green Mountain Self Advocates out of Vermont, and Self Advocates looked at our curriculum to see what would apply from family leadership training for SALT. And they ended up nixing like 10 of the 12 sessions, because really not everything applies, the majority of it. So really those Self Advocates, along with our partner at DD Ombuds, Tim, Self Advocates helped us to create curriculum specifically by Self Advocates for Self Advocates. And that's how really SALT came about. So I just wanted to kind of provide a little more details there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just noticed my email is a little typo, so it's MINHN, not M, I'm sorry. For those who want to contact me for the family leadership training. Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca will put that in the chat for the people online, so they'll have
Okay,
the correct
thank you.
email, yeah. Are there any questions from the chat, Rebecca?
There aren't any questions that I can see. Can you repeat your email and I'll get it correct?
Yes, it's MINHN.
Okay, perfect. I got
So the
that.
only change was to be an N instead of the N instead of M. Sorry.
For the parents. So the question was, how can you enroll in training for the family leadership training program? So one would be to contact Min, who's our family advocacy coordinator. If you can, write him an email and let him know that you have interest, then he will reach out to you and let you know, further details of the programming. And again, he's probably looking at doing that next one in September of next year. However, I would say that since Spanish is, since we did the Latino culture review, there is still some opportunities that maybe we might work with our family support department so they can deliver this training in their parent support groups in Spanish. So it might be that for the Spanish classes and the Somali classes, those might be delivered sooner because they're already in that native language.
Okay, wow, man, Aaron, Dana, and Moses, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Matthew from the Washington State Fathers Network was kind enough to come and speak with us. So I think Rebecca can work with Matthew to get unmuted and get going. I do want to make a note that for those of us in person, I don't know how to do both the PowerPoint and the picture, so we're not going to be able to see Matthew in person, but I think the people on Teams can see him.
Okay, thank you everyone for having me. I really do appreciate it. And let me know if we're all ready to go.
We're all set. We can hear you, Matthew. Thank you.
Great. So my name is Matthew Rickman, and I am the director of the Washington State Fathers Network, which is a program that is offered through Kindering.
Does the sound good?
Next slide, please. So I'm one
Sorry.
thank you. So I'm the director of the Washington State Fathers Network, which is a program offered through Kindering, and I'll go into more detail. My background is in storytelling and game design, I'm a certified therapeutic game master, certified problematic gaming specialist, and a certified geek specialist, which means I get to take all the fun, nerdy, geeky stuff that people enjoy doing and try and help people with that through those avenues. So next slide. So about Kindering. So Kindering was the organization that founded before the Fathers Network in 1962 by 5 parents as a playgroup for their children with disabilities. Kindering now serves 10,000 children and their families each year with life-changing therapies as physical therapy, occupational therapy, and feeding therapies, their special education and family support as well. The 4 campuses are in Bellevue, Bothell, Redmond, and Renton currently. And there's definitely been specialized outreach for families who are homeless or housing insecure, immigrants and refugees, and those in the kinship or foster care system as well. So that's Kindering. So the next slide would be the Fathers Network. So about the Washington State Fathers Network was a program started in 1978 at the UW Experimental Education Unit. A lack of funding transferred it from UW to Marywood, which would later become known as Kindering. And then it was an expansive across the state, not just Washington, but across the state until funding was cut. And then it became a singular organization in 1994, known as the Washington State Fathers Network under Kindering. So the Fathers Network program in Kindering Center in Bellevue is one of the longest running fathers programs of its type in the world as it continues to go. So next slide. The 3 focus areas of our programs, we connect men. I try and change the language to male identifying individuals. That was specific to the Fathers Network. So male identifying caregivers or parents, we connect them by having support groups. There's 12 chapters across the Washington state. 7 of them do meet. A couple of them do still meet regularly. And then we also have social activities. We have a camp out for Father's Day. We have a breakfast to celebrate the start of school. And we have our annual conference that we have once a year for fathers to learn more about how the system works and what they could be doing to help their children in advocacy. We also focus on raising the voices of men, meaning we use the Telling Your Story with a Purpose workshop in order to help fathers advocate for their children and mothers. And we don't only have fathers who go through that program, but it's a 4-hour workshop that helps you tell your story to the for policy change and advocacy work mostly. There's also some personal advocacy you can do with the workshop as well. And then the third one is advocating for equal access to the community. Next slide, please. So I've actually had some people kind of ask why the need for a Fathers Network. And since it's been around for a while, it has shown its worth, but in every community, there is work to be done. In every nation, there are wounds to heal. In every heart, there's a power to do it, by Marianne Williamson. I see the need for the Fathers Network grow each day. I have conversations with dads who don't know how to play with their children or do not know how to communicate their needs, or this is a whole brand new situation to them that they have a child with a special healthcare need in their life. And what can they do? What do they need to do? So that's the whole aspect of the Fathers Network from its inception, was how to help fathers who have a child in their life with a special healthcare. Next slide. So the common themes for these fathers groups, I pulled this from one of the original founding documents earlier. Safety, a place to let one's guard down, to be taken seriously, to know what is said will be held in strict confidence. It's a support group for the fathers to be able to do that, including exposure. They learn more about new information, shared feelings, firsthand experiences of what other parents are going through, what other fathers are necessarily going through in those moments. A relaxation, a place to unwind, to laugh, to swap stories rarely told and often misunderstood by others. I spent a lot of my, I've been in this position for 6 months, and I spent probably the first 3 or 4 hearing people tell me that fathers are never going to connect with their children, or fathers don't know how to emotionally connect or don't know how to talk about their emotions. And so I spent the first few months challenging that thought and going, they come the fathers who are in our programs come to swap stories and laugh and feel less alone in the world because they have a child with a diagnosis and they can find another family that can relate to them. So of course that also brings camaraderie, a place to make new friends, have friends to reach out to, share with, lean on. And what I love the most about the Fathers Network is that there's a felt sense of understanding. There's understanding between the fathers of how to help manage strong feelings of anger, joy, and all the feelings in between that all parents experience when confronted with parenting. They're able to, the Fathers Network became a group of fathers who cared deeply about helping other fathers feel less alone. Next slide. So the challenges when we're talking about this is connecting men. The Fathers Network has a little bit of challenge connecting rural parts of the state. We do have 12 chapters, but not all of them do have an active meeting time. So it's tough. That's rural parts of the state. It's kind of hard. Communities of color and communities of color and immigrant communities, culture and language. As I've looked at other organizations and how we can move forward to be more culturally aware of what we're doing and have the Fathers Network be in more than just English currently. It's something that we've been looking to do. Next slide, please. So what we're doing about it currently, generally we're supporting the systems already in place and creating new opportunities. Meaning I'm keeping the Fathers Network programs that we have going, and we're going to also update workshops and training. So we're going to update the Unexpected Journey workshop, which is a workshop that talks about the diagnosis of a child with a special health care need and kind of the ins and outs of what that journey may now look like for you. Nothing fully and extensive, but a guide to get you going on your new journey in life with your child with a special health care needs. Update the Telling Your Story with a Purpose workshop. I mentioned that one. We are making sure that you can advocate, and I'm hoping to create resources to help advocate and make sure that you keep your cultural relevance, your cultural experiences relevant in that Telling Your Story with a Purpose workshop. So people know that your culture matters in what you're trying to advocate for that policy, if that's the case. We also run some trainings to train parents how to play with their children. Recently, I did a workshop on just what the power and purpose of play is and how we can think to start integrating it into the lives of our children more. And of course, that would also mean creating new ways to engage with families, trying to find different outlets, different social media, and then creating more inclusive programming. So one day we can see everyone around the table enjoying the games that we play and every other aspect of our life. Next slide. Okay, that is the general overview of what the Fathers Network does. We do have, there is a Bellevue group for fathers who are, I see that question there. There is a Bellevue group that is meeting for the Fathers Network, and it actually might be meeting tomorrow. They meet at the Crossroads Mall. So we have the information on our website where each what each chapter is, where each chapter meets. And I think they met last week. So those the Bellevue chapter is the most active chapter in our organization, and we are slowly looking at moving the location back to the Kindring Center as well. So I saw that question, and thank you for your question. If no more questions, that is the end of my presentation.
I've got a question about, I've heard about the Telling Your Story with a Purpose. I've actually heard a lot about it. I've heard that it's really powerful. Is it just on your website when you have those workshops? How do we find out when the next workshops will be?
So we don't typically run the workshops out. We have people interested, and then we create the opportunities for those workshops to happen. So people say, we want this Telling Your Story with a Purpose, then they contact me, and then we go from there.
Okay,
then
Min has a
create
question
those
too.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wonder about your contact information. Email, do you prefer email or phone call?
Yeah, that would be my next slide. So we can put that next slide to have the contact information.
Oh, thank you. There it is.
There you go.
So yeah, a big focus of mine, when I didn't get to talk about this as much, is my background is in storytelling and game design. So I'm looking at ways to create dads groups of dads who like to play tabletop games together in order to find that common bond. And then also training dads how to play the games with their children and parents. I do not only limit myself to the fathers, even though it's a father-focused, family-centered organization for me, for that part of the Fathers Network. So I'd be interested in teaching other games and other avenues of play as well. So if people ask me, please feel free to reach out to me if you want to see about setting up a Telling Your Story with a Purpose workshop, and then we can see about how to get that going.
Thank you so much. Oh, we have another question.
Yeah, I have a question around multicultural families and fathers. What kind of outreach have you guys done, if any, like kind of in the past, and what have some challenges been, maybe around language and culture?
So I took on this role after a long absence from the person who retired before me. So I am still getting my feet wet into a lot of the work we're doing, and I'm trying to, at this point, just foster the programs we have going. And I have not been able to do as much research as I want to on multicultural families of that regard. Yes.
Yeah, thank
So
you, Matthew.
yeah.
We'll be reaching out to you definitely, because this is something we need at Open Doors. Probably 90 to 95% of the family members that come and ask for help are the moms. And so we've been thinking about how to increase, the father's enrollment in providing those services and supports to the family. So we will definitely be reaching out. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I can already think of a couple different ways that we could work together. So that would be great to reach out.
Okay.
Matthew, and
That's
I just
so
had
awesome.
Matthew, I had a question about the Bellevue chapter. Is it that East King County chapter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'll put a link to that in the chat for the people that are online, just so that they can get connected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Matthew? It's such a great resource. Oh, thank you. Thanks for all you're doing, and thank you for being here.
Yes.
So-
Thank you so much. And yes, thank you.
Okay, so we'll transition. We've got Ramona from the Arc of King County here, so we'll give her an opportunity to get herself ready and talk to us about advocacy at the Arc.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so I'm Ramona Haddendorf. I did not put my picture on any of these slides, so that's not me who you're looking at. Those are two parents who took one of the classes we taught called the Inclusion Academy. So background, if you're not familiar with the ARC of King County, it's part of a national network of ARCs. So there's an ARC of the United States, there's an ARC of Washington, and there are about 8 local ARCs associated with different parts of the state, and we're the ARC of King County. And we're getting close to about 90 years old. So we've been around a long time, and we protect and promote the rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We do that across the lifespan. So from prenatal all the way through, sunset years. And we also do a mix of direct support work as well as outreach and support and advocacy. And by direct support, that means it's something called community residential. And this is for adults who live in the community, and then people who are individual providers are called. They come and support them in however they need. It might be medical management, it might be some community connection, it might be some advocacy that they need in their own life. But that's actually most of our budget and most of our staffing all goes to our community residential. But interestingly enough, it's number of clients. They're very high need intensive clients that take a lot of support. But then it's flipped. We actually have more reach in our outreach and advocacy. That's where we reach thousands across King County. But this art staff is much smaller. Our outreach and advocacy staff is probably about 20. It kind of depends. We get interns that come and go. And so sometimes it swells up and sometimes it shrinks down. Tonight, I'm going to mostly talk about the program that I work on, advocacy at the ARC of King County. But I will also try to give you a little bit of information about our information and family support, which I think a lot of you will find very, very helpful if you're not familiar with it already. Next slide. Okay, so our information is family support. So advocacy means things to different people. For some people, it means I need support with this resource, figuring out what to do, help me say what to do, or just understand what the system is. That's what our information and family support staff do. They help you navigate services, and we help with all kinds of services. I mean, essentially, if it touches your life, we're there, we're a resource for you. I would say most of the issues that we support people with are education, sometimes healthcare, a lot around like supplemental securities, Social Security, ABLE savings, lifetime planning, guardianships. How do you do that? Housing, we have a housing department. We do a lot of housing systems navigation, and we also do homelessness prevention. Unfortunately, when you get into the world of disability and adults, there's a lot of poverty involved with disability for a lot of different reasons. So our information support staff helps with that. And I went ahead and I put emails on here. It's really easy. It's ask@ARC of King County. In Spanish, it's preguntas@ARC of King County. And by the way, all of our programs are offered in English and Spanish. And they're taught by Spanish-speaking staff who are, Spanish who are also immigrants and parents of people with disabilities or have a disability themselves, perhaps. So they really have a really good understanding of cultural navigation. It's not just a language translation. It's really a cultural understanding of where people are coming from, how they may or may not approach advocacy. We also have family support that is tailored to Black African-American families that really looks at that intersection of race and disability. So we have different multicultural support services for families. What I do on my team is we try to change the world. So sometimes what you need is help figuring out how to use this system and how to make it work for you. And sometimes that system is broken and you need to change it. So that's where my team comes in. And we spend a lot of our time educating people about the issues because it's really hard to change the world if you don't understand what's going on. So a lot of my work is around communications, actually, and a lot of issue education. We work through social media, we work through newsletter, we have blogs, we go and we do presentations, basically just trying to explain what the difference is. Also, I should also back up, what we also do, it's kind of unique for us at the ARC. I don't know if this is at all ARCs, but especially in the outreach staff, though, kind of throughout the community residential support staff as well. Most of us either have a disability, we have a sibling with a disability, or we're a family member of a disability. So this is really a culture. And we do a lot of our training and a lot of support through that lens of helping people understand that disability itself can be a culture. And that's something you need to understand, especially when you get to neurodivergence. People just communicate, they act different, they have different expectations. And sometimes our social systems don't always understand that. So we do a lot of work around advocacy to help the world understand better developmental disabilities. So anyways, what I do is educate, and we also do two ways. We educate families and individuals about different issues. We tell them how like the legislator works. We have things like, messaging tools, like, look, here's how you craft a simple message. Here's how you share it. Here's how you go and testify on that bill. So we do that with families. But then we also are constantly collecting information from families when they come to us, from the casework that we do. We do a lot of one-on-one support casework. We collect that information and we share it with different agency type people. We share it with legislators. So we're constantly in communication. Next slide, please. Some of the things that we've worked on recently, securing funding and support for inclusive practices in schools in K-12. You might know it as Inclusionary Practices Program through OSBI, that's the State Superintendent's Office. We also do a lot of trying to help people understand what universal design for learning. We feel very, very strongly that our world needs to figure out how to be a little bit more accessible and inclusive. And when we do that, a lot of these other external services can kind of melt away if we're not alienating people as much. Another recent one was we changed the subminimum wage law. Until recently, it was legal to pay people with disabilities less than minimum wage just because they have a disability. And we helped end that. We're nationally, the ARC is still working on ending it nationally, but we succeeded in ending it in the state of Washington. We've been working for years to end this cap on funding special education. If you didn't know that, the state only pays so much for special education, they cap it off. And then they expect the local school districts to fill in the cap or not provide services. So we've been working on that. The most recent it's up to 15% now. Ideally, we want to see that one go away entirely. We've also spent the last several years really working on affordable housing. That became one of the leading issues for people with disabilities who connected with us. That was the number one issue they needed support with, is housing, including homelessness. It's not, sometimes you hear a lot about somebody who's maybe older, they've been living with their family all their lives. Their family is like, we're not going to be around all this time. We need to find a home. That is an incredibly big problem. And we work on that, but we also are actively supporting individuals and families with individuals with disabilities who are either homeless or facing homelessness. So this is it's some very, very serious social work and social situations that we're involved in. So we've been working very, very hard to get affordable housing, and affordable housing for the lowest income. If you have a developmental disability and you end up getting supplemental security income through the federal, it's part of the Social Security Administration. If you get that, you're essentially living about, it's somewhere between $10,000 and $13,000 a year. And you're actually forced to live in that sort of deep, deep, deep poverty. And that means that you are navigating food stamps, you are navigating just chronic poverty. And so a lot of the work is centered around that. Next slide. Some ongoing issues we're working at, crisis supports. A lot of families have been loud and clear that people are in crisis, adults are in crisis, kids are in crisis. And so we've been trying to work to make sure that our mental health support systems really understand neurodivergency, and they're really able to help and connect, and that people get the supports that they need early on so that we don't go into crisis. And then if somebody is in crisis, to make sure that they're not just left stuck in a hospital somewhere. We also are working on ending isolation and limiting restraint in Washington schools. Inclusive opportunities in pre-K and K-12, every school. Washington State, unfortunately, we've been doing really good work recently with the inclusionary practices work, but we're still really and pretty much an outlier when it comes to inclusive education for kids, especially in preschool. We're, I think, 5 now. Five from the bottom in the nation. So more than most places, we send kids to separate classes or separate schools when they're young for preschool. We don't do inclusive programs so much. So that's something we've really been trying to work on. Washington State had more luck with the K-12 inclusion, but even there, what we're seeing is that kids with like intellectual and developmental disabilities are still very, very segregated. And in fact, we're number 2 worst in the nation for segregating kids with intellectual disabilities. And there's also, this feeds into issues like racial issues, because kids, especially Black children, are much more likely to have a diagnosis of intellectual disability, and they're much more likely than to be put into a segregated learning environment. And we know that the kids, first of all, is a follow research, so it's not real healthy for them. But we also know that they don't always have access then to the full curriculum that other kids have. So that's just an ongoing priority of us. is to make sure that our schools are really inclusive. Because if your schools are inclusive, that's going to feed into what kind of life you have as an adult. An isolated school experience is going to lead to a very alienating and isolating adult experience, unfortunately. We've also been working really a lot lately on family caregiver support. A big issue more recently is seeing if families of medically complex minors can be paid. Right now in our state, if you're a parent of an adult with a developmental disability, if you qualify, you may be able to be paid to be their primary caregiver, but not for children. So we're trying to change that. And the reason why is the children are qualifying for benefit for personal care, but there's not a workforce there for them. So families, they get all the paperwork in, they get the approval, they meet all the requirements, but there's no providers who want to work with their children. And so we literally see families who are forced out of work or forced to severely critical work. And it's not just the young years, throughout K-12. Summer camps often will refuse to take children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. After school programs will refuse to take children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's kind of the work that we're also working on there. We need to figure out how to make our families stronger and more stable. And then of course, safe, accessible. Next slide. So we're part, I already mentioned this earlier, we're part of a national network. We've got chapters. I have links here for the ARC of the United States, the ARC of Washington State, and then ARC in County. And I would say we have so many positions. There's many. There's many issues. You name the topic that we've got a position on it, and we've got someone somewhere working on it. Personally, I track all the legislation in the state of Washington. So I'll probably track about 150 at least bills a year. Maybe about 30 are probably really meaningful to people with disabilities or IDD. But we're constantly tracking and watching out for many. Next slide. So this was a shot at a legislative forum. We used to do these for the county. Now the county is doing them on their own. But that was quite the event in the fall. About close to 700 people would show up. And if you look in the foreground, these are all legislators and they're listening to testimony. But if you look in the background, there's a screen of a mom and a young woman, and they're providing testimony. And I would say that's kind of the heart of what we do is, again, we're trying to connect people. Because when legislators really do hear what you're going through and they really do hear your story, that personal connection, that personal story, that's what actually can really make a change and get legislation pushed through. One of the easiest ways to just connect is just sign up for the advocacy emails. That's where you'll learn about this bill or this issue, and here's how you can engage. We try to make it really simple. In our state, there's a state legislative website, if you didn't know, and then each bill has a bill page, and then they also have a little button that you can click, like comment to your legislator here. And so we'll give you those links. So we'll tell you, like, this is the bill, this is what it's going to do. And you can click on this button. It's not always an action alert from us. What it is that takes you directly into the state legislative system, so you can just communicate directly with your legislator. So that's the kind of work we do. Flag these issues that we think are going to be impactful and meaningful, and let you know this is when you have to speak up. Because that's the flip side of legislative advocacy. Is when they're not in session, nothing's happening, and when they are in session, things move quickly. And if we say, send an email or call now, you really should send an email or call now. So the easiest way is just to sign up for those action alerts. Actually, this is not an action alert. This is newsletters. Just sign up for the newsletters. And if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe, but that will probably be the easiest way to let you know about issues. Next slide. And then we have many resources. One thing is that I'm actually pretty proud of my staff. I have 2 community advocacy coordinators, are both the people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so what they really work on and specialize with are making plain language and easy read translations of policy, which is actually a very, very difficult thing to do. Using very simple language is not a simple way of writing. You have to be able to grasp a very broad and complex topic, but really zero in on a few essential words. And it also involves a lot of imagery. So we have some of those resources. There's a link here, Easy Read Advocacy. So we've been developing those, if you would like to have a look at those. And the reason is because we think with disabilities need to be advocate for themselves. They need to be able to vote for themselves, engage in civic life themselves. And so we try to give them the resources to do that. Next slide. And classes, so we offer all kinds of issue education classes. Most often what I do now is around the legislative session, I'll always do some sort of civics course, just open, like this is what the legislator does, this is how you engage, these are some of the bills you see. That always happens. But then often we'll just presentations. So if you're ever interested, if you have a group that's interested, really just just send me an email and we can arrange to do a presentation on something. And sometimes people want to know just about a specific policy issue. Sometimes we have there's one like how change happens. And so that helps you think about advocating, like how do you get through and get somebody on your side? Like what is the process of someone changing? Usually with advocacy, especially legislative advocacy, what you're really doing is you're asking someone to do something that they aren't already doing. And chances are if they're doing it, it's because it's easy for them to do it that way. They think that's the way it's supposed to them. So to ask them to change is actually kind of a big deal. So we have classes that look at that. I also do a lot of education around the Americans with Disability Act and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Those are foundational anti-discrimination laws, civil rights law that affect all government. ADA Title II touches on your local school districts, your local government, your state government, any of those programs. Section 504 is any federal program. Those are basically the laws that you can't discriminate because someone has a disability. And then we also do classes on IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And then also for those of you who are looking specifically for support with IEP, if you send a note to the Ask King County, we offer IEP parent partner trainings. And what that is, we teach you all about the IEP process. And then you agree that you can mentor to other family members. We also have a more general parent-to-parent support group where you do a similar training, and then parents are matched up. We do a lot with peer support around that. We also have a peer support group for adults who are autistic adults. There's many programs. I really encourage you just to go to the website and poke around. The Inclusion Academy, I did not get to offer this year, but this is one that we developed with the Best Starts for Kids. And it was really geared towards very young parents of young children, ages 2 to 5. And it was specifically trying to tackle that segregated preschool problem we have in our state. And it really focused on why is inclusion important. It's actually very important for your health. It's important for your well-being. It's important for children's just development. And it has a huge implications. So we really educate like, well, what is inclusion? Why is it important? What are these civil rights laws? What are your students' rights? What are your preschool options? And then also going into the advocacy and also disability diversity, the social models of disability, doing a lot of panels, people who have disabilities themselves. A lot of parents of kids actually don't know any disabled adults. So that's something that we try to break down. Next slide. And then just, different information for it. We share a lot of resources online. There's our Facebook page, our Instagram page. I have not killed, but I also have not used it since it's changed ownership. So Facebook will give you probably the most information if you happen to use Facebook. We also have the e-news that you can sign up for. We've got a blog, and I put on here the resource guide. It's really handy. It's whenever we do classes, we tape them. So we got webinars on all kinds of things in there. We've got your kids in transition age, that kind of packet. We've got preschool packet. We've got, you name it, there's something on there. So it's a good resource. There's also a version in Spanish. So there's the Spanish resource catalog, and then there's also the English version. And if you wondered, the ARC is a membership organization. And if you ever wanted to engage in a deeper way, you can certainly become a member. If you're a member at a local, you're also a member at the state, and you're a member at the national. It's kind of like PTA that way. Next slide.
That is the end of the slideshow.
Yeah, that's all I have to share.
Okay, so any questions for Ramona? It's really interesting to see how all three organizations are aligned and complement each other. Any questions in person? Any from the chat, Rebecca?
It doesn't look like there are any in the chat here.
Okay, so I think that wraps up our